Ontario. There was a community called Walkerton, and there the water came from wells fairly close to a pig farm. And the pig shit was getting into the water table. The people who were processing the water, monitoring it, pumping it, filtering it, were supposed to be reading meters, and when it fell, something fell above a certain level, they were supposed to add chlorine. Well, they'd run out of chlorine, so we'll fix the numbers. 8 people died. Now, this isn't unique. I was in South Texas at a Rotary conference in that triangle, Laredo, Corpus Christi, Brownsville. Developers there indiscriminately buying up land and developing it, and there are no restrictions on how close a septic tank can be to the well. The rate of tuberculosis in that part of the States, the richest country in the world, is abysmal if we knew about it. So we've got to be very careful that we do what the community, the host community wants. We're given 1 mouth and 2 ears. Let's use them in that proportion. Let's not tell those people what's right for them. Let's listen to what they want and act accordingly. And there's so many, many amusing stories like this. I remember in one case, there was a North American drilling group went over to put some bore wells into the ground. The hydrologist said, there'll be water in this particular area, so they drilled. There wasn't. So they said, oh well, maybe it's over here, so they drilled somewhere else. This happened 4 times. They were going down about 120 feet. And the women in the village were quietly smiling to themselves, you know, these smart guys from North America. And after a while, so we said, why are you all smiling? He said, well, if you want to find water, you've got to drill where water is. That's not too ridiculous to do. And they said, okay, well, where is it? Well, I said, it's over there. Well, how do you know? Well, that's where we've always got water. So, drill, the water's there. We've got to be very, very careful when dealing in these developing communities. Give you another example. In Sarawak, Indonesia, the local community with Rotary support built a pipeline from a mountaintop lake. The water was good, and they built this pipeline down into several villages. Halfway down the mountain, they had this valve and branching to branch to 6 communities. And when it opened and the water flowed, there was great jubilation. The political governor, the Rotary governor, everybody else involved came out, offered libations, thanks to God and so forth. At last, these villages had safe water. Good water, clean water, healthy water, for a week. But lost up. Oh well, somebody concluded maybe the valves got plugged up, so we'll go all back up and look what's happening at the inlet. And well, we only halfway up and discovered there was a huge section being cut out. The valve, the branching, all these different elements, they disappeared. Somebody said, we know we'll find those. We'll go down to the bazaar on Saturday night and they'll be for sale. Sure enough, they were. But they couldn't prove anything. But that wasn't beside the point. What do we do going forward? If we rebuild it, somebody else is going to come and steal some more. Well, we can put a guardian on and have him walk up and down all night. But somebody said, no. I said, why don't we think of using local materials that aren't worth anything? Okay. Like what? Bamboo. A hollow of grass. So, we cut down bamboo, shampooed the ends, cleared the pith out, T-H, out of the center, shampooed them together, and now we had a pipeline. Local materials. Nobody's going to steal bamboo, you can go and chop down your own. Listen to the local people. Learn from what they want and what they can do. We can learn a great deal. Supply driven. How often do I hear Rotarians and many other well-intentioned people saying, I'd like to go to Africa to drill a well. Every week I get a message on my email from some Rotarian. I want to go and drill a well. So my reply is always, why do you want to drill a well? Well, there's a water problem. Okay, but have you thought about other solutions? No, I thought everybody drilled wells. Because there are many organizations, so-called not-for-profits, that promote wells as a means of collecting money from unsuspecting people such as you, which then go into their coffers to pay executives very large salaries, and then they do drill wells, but then after they drill the wells, they forget them, and 2 years later the wells aren't working. But think about what is appropriate. The problem with wells is, first of all, if it's a deep well, it has a submersible pump, the pump has to be lifted up, repaired, and sometimes replaced every 2 or 3 years. If, when that well was first dug, nobody had thought about life cycle costing, how much is this facility going to cost for the next 10 years to provide safe water? If nobody has thought about that, then the likelihood is the tariff that the local people are paying for water, be it a monthly charge or so much per litre, there is no provision, no reserve set up to replace, repair, and rebuild. That's the first issue. And that's the problem. Where people go and drill wells, they're doing a disservice to a community unless they've shared with the community the ongoing costs and the need to fund that ongoing work. The technology can be inappropriate because, for example, I've just mentioned the voltage, wrong voltage. Or there isn't a supply chain. You know, and we in Rotary are not guiltless in this respect. Largely because every Rotary club is autonomous. And a small Rotary club here would match up with a Rotary club that could be in Honduras or Guatemala, somewhere in Africa. We'd like to come and help you, drill a well or put in some water system. And we then go and do it. We persuade the Rotary Foundation to give a matching grant. But then, when it's finished, because of our mindset in Rotary, starting and completing a project in 1 year, we walk away from it. How we train those people, how to service it, to operate it, and to maintain it. Unfortunately, the Rotary Foundation doesn't always provide funds for that human dimension. So we'll drill a well, turn it over to the people, say, oh, here you are. In other cases, I've known where people will go in, and this isn't only Rotarians, by the way, many of the well-intentioned people will go in and drill a well, in, let's say, in a school, or for a school. At the end, they'll then turn it over to the school, say, here you are. Then the school will say, well, who's going to maintain this? Who's going to operate it? How will we fix it? Oh, well, the local Rotary Club will do that. You go to the local Rotary Club, but it's already got its case full. Just too many projects is already maxed out. So once again, a school which hoped it would have water doesn't have water a year, year and a half, or 2 years later. But there's something else which is even more critical. There is little holistic thinking in the traditional project. Drilling a well is not holistic thinking. Drilling a well is an activity. What we should be thinking about is, if, as and when we provide water to a community, or better still, if, as and when we help that community obtain a water service, how can that impact the community? As a result of having water, does it mean now that we can provide water and sanitation to a school? Or does it mean we can grow crops and raise livestock? Or maybe we now have water so we can have a clinic in the community. There isn't sufficient of that thinking because too many of us have been conditioned to think of 1 year at a time. That was a tradition in Rotary. In fact, the manual procedures a few years ago said that no club should undertake a project which can't be completed in 1 year. Now, fortunately, that thinking has changed. You'll hear the word activity less and less. You'll hear project maybe a little bit more, but the emphasis is shifting to programs. We go and work with the community for 5 to 7 years to address the humanitarian needs in the community, of which water and sanitation are probably two important parts. Little attempt at community ownership. That takes time. We have got to be very careful that we don't do everything ourselves, other than raising money. And God bless us all, we need the money. But when we get to Africa, don't go and drill the wells. Don't build a filter. Help the community do that. Show them how. Train them how. So that if the community and the local Rotary Club has put in some sweat equity, If they put money in, which they should be doing, then that is truly